This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 656 of the Dressage Radio Show, official podcast of the United States Dressage Federation on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, the Murdoch Method, and Total Saddle Fit. On today's show, we're going to be talking to Bobbi Carleton about preparing for competitions. After that, Ruth Hogan Poulsen will come on to discuss a very popular charity event in Wellington, the Challenge of the Americas Quadrille. Then Wendy Murdoch will be here for our great monthly chat, and Reese and I will bring you a trainer tip.
This is Reese Koppler-Stanfield from Loxahatchee, Florida.
And this is Philip Parks from snowy Rockwood, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show.
I should have said sunny Loxahatchee, Florida. I'm sorry, it is sunny. And it was a little warm today with a little breezy today here, but not going to complain at all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, when the palm fronds, again, Florida is an interesting place. And my horses do get some... they get wildlife because we're next to a canal. And today was quite windy. So I was riding, and thankfully it was Bingo. So my best horse, and he really is quite a gentleman. And I mean, 2 palm fronds fly down and 2 fly across the ring. And thank God I was on him, because it scared me just as much as he scared him. And he settled in before my heart was going. And so I was quite spooky. And Bingo just kind of stopped and looked at it. And he's like, oh, it's okay. So it was sweet. So I was glad I was on him for sure.
Yeah, well, we have the snow falling off the roof situation happening because it's kind of warmed up a little bit this week. So the snow. And then, I think most of my horse is okay, but really I'm not. I might be just years from riding young horses, and sort of you get to expect the spook, and then there's no excuse for the horse when the rider is spooking. Then the horse is like, "What's going on? What's wrong?"
Right.
I try
exactly.
Not to, in those situations, I'm just like, "Oh, I know the horses are good, but I'm not." And
I'm not good. Well, I sympathize. I was the same when that happened. Similar type spooking situations. And you're like, oh my gosh, stuff's flying from the ceiling and flying from trees. And, my horses at home are inside, and in Florida, we train outside. So it is a good thing that they get used to it. But I was glad I was on my steady Eddie when that happened today. For sure.
It's a rider spooking the horse sort of situation.
Yeah, it was. I was like, oh my gosh. It was crazy, but all good. All good. Well,
I'm still here,
warming.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, you're still here. That's good. We like you. So we're glad that's happening. I love it. Well, goodness, we've had a busy week here in Florida. Now season's really in full swing. So people have been coming. I had friends stop by today, friends of the show. They stopped by, which was fun. It's quite busy. I have good friends coming tomorrow with their little girl who rides a pony. So I'm going to show them around Wellington a little bit. And we'll probably go over to the pony ring at WEF. So all good stuff. So we're quite busy.
Is next week is the 5-star?
Yes. So next week is the 5-star.
Being held over across the road.
That's right. So the 3-star will be held at Global, which is the normal venue with all the other small tour and medium tour and the young riders. And then on Wednesday and Friday nights, and I'm sure it will be live streamed so everybody can see it. It will be, they moved it to the bigger venue, which is cool. So WEF is a much bigger venue. That's
really neat, kicking the jumpers out for 2 nights.
Yeah, they do kick the jumpers out. Yeah, I thought it was an interesting, I'm really glad they did it. I think it'll be more comfortable for everyone watching, and it won't be quite as busy, packed. Global's a pretty tight venue. Actually, from the horses' perspective, I actually think WEF is a little bit easier because the crowd's pretty far from the arena. Global, the crowd's a little bit closer. So, it'll be a great week.
Yeah. I'd encourage everybody to be live streaming that 5-star because I think the biggest names in our sport and in North America should be there. I think
Well,
a
and a
couple
lot
of
of
people have
Europeans have
held
come
back
over.
their horses, because they campaigned very hard during the Olympics last year. So a couple of the Olympic horses won't be there, but it should be a nice big showcase for dressage.
I think it'll be great. So everyone hopefully will be able to live stream. So again, Wednesday and Friday, it's kind of a funny days. But we've got a great show, Phil. So we're going to get the party started right after this break from Kentucky Performance Products.
She swallowed hard as they walked into the start box. She could feel his muscles tense under her leg. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Have a great ride. She didn't have to ask. He galloped out of the box and across the field toward their first training level course. His ears pricked. Her heart pounded. He attacked each obstacle with confidence, clearing them with room to spare. A huge smile broke out on her face as she crossed through the finish flags. She leaned forward and buried her face in his neck. Their bond of love and trust blocked out all else. This love story is brought to you by Elevate. Research proven to have superior bioavailability. Elevate supplies the essential vitamin E often missing from the equine diet. Its all-natural formula supports healthy muscle and nerve functions. The horse that matters to you matters to Kentucky Performance Products. Call 859-873-2974 or visit kppusa.com to order today.
Well, tonight I'm very excited to have my friend and my neighbor in Florida, Bobbi Carleton of Weetog Stables. She's a bronze, silver, and gold medalist and USDF Small R judge. Bobbi, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I can't believe it's taken us this long to get you on the show, but I am so glad I finally grabbed you.
Oh, me too. This should be fun.
I love it. So literally in Florida, when we're both here, you're on the other side of the road. So I walk by and we wave and we try to get a few dinners in. So it's part of the fun of being in Wellington and being together. And you have a great topic, which is pretty good for us right now. We have a show this weekend in our neighborhood, but you wanted to talk about tonight, which I love, is getting adult amateurs ready for competition or frankly, getting anybody ready for competition. So I'm going to let you get started.
Cool. And it was great because we talked about this the other night. You asked me about doing it and I quickly started writing some notes. And then the poor ladies at my barn today, I said, hey, I'm going to talk to you. I need to ask some questions. And whether it's amateurs or even us professionals, it's like, why do we show, and myself, I show, it keeps me motivated. Up north, we have huge hay fields and it's really easy to get in fun and go around the hay fields. But if I know I have to show an Intermediate 1 or the Grand Prix or my baby in training level, I better have them ready to do that test. So to me, showing keeps me focused and gives me motivation. And a lot of ladies at the barn said that too. It keeps them from just wandering around having fun on their horse, but also just motivation to keep learning and keep moving on. Some people have goals for regionals or scores for medals, and that's all great. But at the end of the day, we're riding our horses. We should have fun. And that's what I love to see with people. And I think all of us have fear at some point, but, with the adults, I was talking to some of them. It's okay. What is the least favorite part or what is your biggest fear of showing? And obviously, the fear of getting hurt is not a good one. We try not to get into that situation. And is it just because we're nervous or is it, obviously to have a naughty horse, you want to seek out help and get someone that can help you get that horse safe to show. And that being said, if you get to a show and either because of your nerves or your horse is green, if they're not feeling safe, you don't need to get on. You don't need to prove anything, whether you're professional or amateur. You don't need to prove anything to anybody. So do keep yourself safe.
What's a great situation for us, we're up in the north and we actually attend, pretty much all summer, multiple day shows. So it's really typical for me and my clients that I would, for especially the first show is to, we bring the horse to a show. I do the first day. That's usually a Thursday. We ship in. Thursday we ship in and I would warm the horse up and, give it some ring experience. And then maybe their owner would get on, but maybe not, right? Just depending on the behavior of the horse. And then perhaps I would show the horse, I would compete the horse on the Friday, for the first 2 classes. We try to do a couple of, for the lower level stuff. Yeah, each horse will probably try to do a couple of classes. For the FEI horses, they should only be doing 1 class per day, but it depends on the horse. Everything's flexible. And so I would compete the horse, and they get experience in being in front of a judge, and the warm up is usually a tricky situation to navigate, and then perhaps the owner. Amateur rider would be the next to take the horse on a Saturday or on a Sunday, and that's a great way to be progressive in the training, progressive in the rider sees that the horse is well behaved and pretty relaxed, and even if they've competed the year before, we always like to have a little check in. It's long winters here, and so. When we finally get competing in April or May, the horses can be somewhat fresh and whatever. But I mean, it's all about mental confidence and building a plan that gives a good experience to horse and rider.
Well, and I think,
exactly.
I mean, this happened to me a couple of years ago with Big Mike. You guys, I talk about him on the podcast a lot. He had shown, he's Bobbi's favorite. He literally watches Bobbi all morning. It's so funny. It's like she's the Today cutest. Show. Yeah, she's like the Today Show. Mike just stands at his paddock and watches what Bobbi and her team does. It's hilarious. It's really funny. But he had already shown a year or 2, and I had entered our show down the street, and we had been to this show multiple times the year before. I had schooled him the day before. We were showing second level. I'll never forget this because I take him down there, and for whatever reason, the day of the competition, he lost his mind. Like, I don't know what his problem was.
Oh,
I don't know. He just got there, and we were all braided and dressed, and my mom was with me, and I had planned to lunge him anyways. And so, but there's like 5 minutes just to make sure he was safe. No, I mean, I was in there forever, it felt like. And my mom's like, you gotta get on, you gotta get on, you gotta get on. And I just looked at her and I said, you know what, Mom, go scratch the class. Like, I need to take whatever time this takes today. That's what he presented. And I think it's really important to remember that. Like, I wanted to show second level. I was ready. I was there. I was dressed. I was at the horse show, but he was not ready. He just wasn't. And and my mom was even like, come on, let's go. She's part owner. But I was like, like, no, Mom, like, I'm not, today, Mom. Not today, not today. Like, and so we scratched, and I lunged him, and I rode him, and did what I felt like I needed to do. And then we brought him home, and then we went back the next day, braided, ready to go, same routine. And he was perfect. And he won his class with a good score. So I think that's important to remember. Even, you have 3 professional riders here, but it happens to all of us. And it's okay.
To all of us. I had a young mare a few years ago, and she was doing so well all summer. I said, you want me to take her hits? We're going to hits. Oh, yeah, take her. What was I thinking? So I signed her up, and we get there, and she was rearing in the stall, spinning in the stall. I'm like, I'm not getting on that. Take her out to lunge her, and she's like a lipazon. I'm like, oh, goodness. Yeah. But like Philip was saying, it's like, by the end of the weekend, we were going around. She actually got a 70% from a tougher judge on the Sunday. And the scribe after our test is like, that's her first show. And they couldn't believe it. But, the first day it wasn't like that, and had someone holding me, leading me to the warm up because I didn't want to cause anyone else problems. But you have to take your time with these things, right? And
and it's okay.
And above all, be safe.
Yep. I love it. Well, what's the next one, Bobbi? What else you got for us?
So we're going to consider that we get to the show and we're all feeling good and our horse is behaving. So then other things can go through people's minds. And so if you're all safe, we're going to clear that. That's all good. Jane Savoy had a great ism. She said, take your worst fear and put so what in front of it. So I'd ask this lady, what's your worst fear? Well, I might go off course. It's like, okay, so what if you go off course? We all do it, right? And you just,
I've been there many times.
Left instead of right. Oh my gosh, right? So, I got to go left instead of right. Okay, so you go back and you do it. And so what if my score might not be good? Well, so what if your score's not good? We've all had bad scores. We've all had great scores. And who cares? Really, at the end of the day, it's okay that your score wasn't great. And then you're going to get that feedback. So that's what I love about dressage, right? You can go in and you get your test back and you get your numbers, each score for each movement and why you got that score. And I'm going to flow into all my notes all at once. But, once I had a mom and daughter, and the daughter rode at our schooling show, and she got I don't know, 63, 64 in a training level test. And the mom was all upset because, sixes and sixes. I'm like, well, let me see your test. And the judge, good judge, there were sixes, there were some fives, there were some sevens, but with the fives and sixes, look at the comment that the reason is there why you got the six. When we're judging, it goes fast. You only have so much time to watch the horse, formulate your comment, get your score down, and then they're ready for the next thing. So at the end of the day, saying, oh, nice circle, six, that doesn't do the rider any good. Why wasn't it a 7, 8, or 9 or 10, right? Was it lacking energy? Was it not supple enough? Not correct bending? Was there some tension? So some people look at the comments and go, oh, but the judge is negative. Well, not really. They're better serving you by telling you what's missing. If you're getting a 6 or lower, what's missing? Why aren't you getting a better score? And then, then you can do your homework. And I hope a lot of people, whether it's a friend or a professional, get your ride videoed, because then you can take your test and look at your video and say, oh, he's right. My horse wasn't supple enough here. Okay, we got to work on this haunches in or the shoulder in or whatever movement you were having trouble with. And then that's giving you kind of the focus where you have to kind of work to improve things. Then you have your homework for the next time. So the next time you come out, maybe those 6s turn into 7, and 7 can turn into 8s, which is great.
Yeah, I think in in getting a test back and watching a video, you have to pay attention to two things. You have to pay attention to the overall impression. You can usually tell what the overall impression is if the judge is making the same comment over and over again, lacking impulsion or that kind of thing, pull too low, or just an overall look, and then you say, you know what, I can go home and I can train that overall impression, right? And then yep. and you can do it every day, all the time. And then the second thing is, are there specific mistakes that you made in the test that is not a general, impression kind of thing, but like, is your 20-meter circle too small, or and those things are usually pretty easy to clear up. Remember your geometry, go from letter to letter, get on the center line, stay straight, those types of things. So, I mean, looking at a test, you can look at, where you lost specific marks, and then you can look at the overall impression that the judge got and go ahead and kind of fix those kinds of things, whether it's balance and that kind of stuff will take a lot longer and will be more, maybe a couple of months, but if you're looking at specific problems, you can clean those up for next day if you're doing a multiple day show, or if you're competing, this weekend and then next weekend, you can go, okay, well, I'm gonna really focus on that. That mistake will get cleared up, or this or that thing. So I think when you're going back and reviewing a test, you have to kind of think of those two sides of it.
For sure, and. We all want to improve as we go. That's the goal of our showing, right? And training with our horses, keep them learning, keep us learning, and make every movement better. We had they do these Nita know-hows, and they had Laura Graves and her mom on at one point last year, and she was talking about her scores were good, right? But she wanted her scores to be better, and they talked about how her trainer was talking with her, how she wasn't stacking her 8s. It's like, okay, your horse can get an 8 on each movement, which we would all dream about doing, right? But she wasn't getting 8s in a row. And so then she put her focus to that. Okay, I'm not focusing on each movement here, and then I'm missing out points that I should otherwise be getting. Yeah. But that being said, we all have tests too, where you have that moment of 4, 3, or 2, something went really bad. And again, if it's a good judge, you might give out a 2 because something really bad happened, or something didn't happen that was supposed to. But theoretically, and this happened to me, the very next movement could be a 10, right? So when you do have a problem in a test, got the wrong lead, okay, fix it. Your horse broke, okay, go back to the correct gait. Whatever the problem is, mine was leaping, flying changes, regroup and go on to the next movement. And, hey, look, judge, I went right back to work. And if it's a good judge, they leave that 2 behind, and you need to leave that 2 behind and focus on riding forward and riding the rest of your test. Same with going off course. Oops. And then just go back to work, let it go, because it already happened. So don't worry about it.
Well, and I think just, like we're talking about, taking time to look at the test and at the numbers that the judges are giving you and going back and studying that, maybe studying the test before or watching your video or really taking time to look at that, I think is really, really important. And I think that's, when I ride a Grand Prix, then I send it off to my team, Philip's on my team, and I'm like, okay, look at this. And he's like, hey, that was better there, but not as good here. It's a constant sort of review of what you're doing and how you're doing it. And like you said, stack the eights. I love that statement. I'm like, I wrote that down, like stack your eights. Like where can you get more eights in a row, right? Or sevens, if you're, depending on what horse you're riding or how you're riding or what level you're riding or what you're able to do. Like how can you increase your points and stack that good score? I would love to stack some eights. That would be amazing.
Wouldn't that be nice? I know.
Yeah. But I think that's super important as you look forward to showing and knowing that, sometimes you have these tests that are absolutely amazing. Sort of like when your day goes well, you're like, everything happened exactly how it was supposed to happen today. And then there's times in your day where something goes awry and then the rest of your day does not get back on track. Then there's times in your day where you're like, okay, I took a wrong turn. I turned around. I was okay, get back on track. And the rest of my day was fine. And I think that you kind of have to think of tests that way. Sometimes you just go in and the horses feel amazing and you're like, yes. And other times you go in and you're like, something happened. So I think that's also part of showing, right? And when you have the ability to show a decent amount, and or in a fairly quick succession, depending on where you are and all the things. I think that that's important because then you really learn where to focus and go forward from there. So,
yeah, that's where it might be a little harder for the adult that only has one horse and only does one test a day. Where you or I might be able to ride 3 or 4 horses a day over the course of the show, and so we get more center lines. And I try to tell my students, like, you really want to do at least one class a day because go back in there and you need so many center lines to get comfortable. A friend of mine years ago, she says to me, she goes, don't we all wish this? My horse needs to be trained better so I can think about where I'm going in my test. It's like, oh, no, you've got that backwards. You need to know your test so well that you can focus on riding your horse. Because I hate to say it, I have not found an autopilot button yet on any of them, no matter how nice they are. So, you do want to know your test really well so that you can focus on riding your horse the best he can go that day. And it's always about that, right? Like you were saying, they get up on the wrong side of the bed or the right side of the bed, just like us. And we have to ride what we have that day in that test, in that moment, and ride it the best we can.
Well, one of my favorite and like you said, I think there's no teacher like experience, right? So,
for sure.
The more experience that you can get in the ring and experience everything, experience going off course, experience stepping out of the ring at the at the opening, or like everything's going to happen one day or another.
It happens, yes.
Yeah, and like every time somebody comes out of the ring and they're like, oh, this was terrible, and I just said, yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, it's happened.
Yep.
I've been there. Like, I don't think there's anything that can happen to an inexperienced adult amateur that hasn't already been, that we've all personally been through. Like at this point, I don't think there's a buck or a rear or a wrong lead or something that I haven't done myself. So we are sympathetic. We've been there, we've experienced it, but you know what? We lived.
Yeah.
So let's
exactly.
move on. Let's move on. Let's not let it ruin our entire day if we had a bad ride, and we just say, okay, and we're gonna go at it again, and maybe that'll happen, and maybe it won't. But that's life, right?
Exactly. I was so proud. We were at Kentucky, and Reese was right across the aisle from us, which was great. And I had a student with me, and her horse, we called her little unicorn. He is this perfect little Dutch riding pony. He is always Mr. Perfect. And I only had gone with him and my mare. Well, he decided he fell in love with her. So the day of her 3rd level championship, he decided to become a fire-breathing dragon and was screaming. And his 15 one hands turned into like 16 2 or 17 hands. And I was holding her all the way up to schooling. And I was like, oh gosh, she's not going to want to ride. She's not going to ride. He was so tense and so screaming the whole time. And I let go of her into schooling. I said, you are to trot and do not stop. And we made it through schooling. I just kept her busy. We go down to the ring. He's still screaming. And I said, again, you go trotting around that ring. When they ring you in, you just get in the ring and do your test. Do not stop. You just keep going. And I could never have been, I think I was never more proud of her because she didn't give up. She didn't, at any one point, if she wanted to get off and be done, I would have been, okay, that's okay, fine. Because I didn't know what he was going to do. He was so good. He didn't do anything wrong. He was tense and it wasn't a great score because there was tension in his part. But she rode so well, and she got every mark she could that day on that horse. And, she got a low 63 or 4. But, it was just because he was tense and tight. And I was just wanted to give her a huge hug when she came out because I was so proud of her. And that's how it goes. And then the next day for her freestyle, she had a great ride. So thank goodness,
Yeah.
And that's
well, and the national championships, right? Kentucky is no joke. Like it's cold and windy and
very,
you have to walk along. I mean, the venue. I mean, I'm from there. I know exactly how the venue is. If you're in the Alltech, it's amazing. If you're not, you're on a hill. It can be very cold, very windy. It's intimidating. It can be hard. And so that's another thing, right? Like we can't control the weather. And I think that is a little bit challenging when you ride inside all the time. And just literally, there are times where it is going to be cold. It's going to be windy. Even in Florida, I mean, we had a really cold, windy horse show last weekend. It was really bad. Yes. I mean, you rode
Saturday was terrible.
It was 20 probably 20 mile an hour winds, but 20-degree wind chill. Like it was cold for Florida. And when it's 80, a couple days before, that's painful. And that is part of it too, right? On some level, we ride in beautiful indoors now and very comfortable, but sometimes it's an outside sport at the end of the day. Like you got to get out and you got to ride sometimes in that weather so that you are used to it, just like anything when you train. So that's something else that can be really nerve-wracking. I don't like to ride when it's like that either. Let's be real. Like I'm a chicken. But
oh my goodness. Yeah. Down here, the palm trees, they blow and they sound so strange when they're blowing.
They're blowing and things are flying all over the place and iguanas are falling. That's a real thing.
I haven't yet to see that, but yes.
You missed ours. But yeah, so I mean, it's really hard, but I think that's too. I mean, you can ride in rain sometimes and you can ride in wind. And I think that's, as you show, and especially if you're going to come to Kentucky in the late fall, early winter, it's going to be cold there and it's the national championship. So it brings that much more nerves out. So that is something to train for sure.
Agreed.
Yeah, no, I love it. Well, Bobbi, these were such amazing things to everybody. I mean, just a topic, to think about for all of us, not just adult amateurs. I mean, we all deal with this as well. And I think, again, the more you show, the more you experience some of these things. And it's just experience. So, Bobbi, we loved your tips. How can our listeners find you online?
Well, I am on Facebook as Bobbi Carleton. The farm has a website, Weatog Stables, WEATOGUE, stables.com. And I have an email. It's bobbicarleton@AOL.com. But yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any questions or any way I can help you. I'd be happy to.
Well, thanks so much, Bobbi, and enjoy the rest of the Florida season.
All right. Thank you. You too. Hopefully I'll see you over the fence tomorrow.
What a beautiful day for horses in the morning.
Well, everybody had a favorite morning drive show in the days we all listened to radio. They were goofy, funny, and entertaining.
You can have that again, only this time it focuses on life with horses. We are here every weekday on your podcast player. Search for Horses in the Morning and come join us.
We are a little goofy, hopefully funny and entertaining, and you might learn something along the way, too. We are the world's leading daily podcast about horses since 2010 with over 2,600 episodes for you to binge on. Subscribe today.
What are you waiting for? Pull your phone out of your pocket, blow off the hay, and subscribe to Horses in the Morning.
Well, tonight we have Ruth Hogan Poulsen. She is an FEI rider, trainer, and Paralympic coach. Ruth, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me again. I look forward to these.
I know, we love having you because you do so many cool things. And we wanted to talk a little bit about, you have been involved with a wonderful program that happens down here in Wellington called the Challenge of the Americas. And we wanted to talk to you a little bit about that and what your role is.
Oh, yeah, it's a fantastic event. I believe the date is March 11th this year. And I think I've been involved with this now for at least 15 years now. And Mary Ross puts this event on, and it's a Challenge of the Americas, as you said, and it's breast cancer benefit. And I don't think there's anybody I don't know that hasn't had some effect of breast cancer in their family or friends. So it's very dear to my heart. My mom had breast cancer when I was in college. And it's always something that I think the research is fabulous to help fund. So I'm the coach of Team Winged Foot, otherwise known as the international team. And my job is to choreograph and make music and try to organize 6 fabulous Grand Prix riders week to week. We start practicing sometime in January, and to get everybody in the same ring, on the same page, on the same pattern, and make it actually turn out the way you envision is quite a feat. So I'm just started this year on my program, and I just was notified about who my team is this year. So I have some people who have been on my team for a number of years and some new ones. So I'll be looking forward to seeing them, meeting them with their horses, who they're riding, and then I get to work trying to basically herd cats for the first 2 or 3 weeks, trying to get everybody to go where they need to go.
I think it probably helps if you've had some riders that have done it before. I'm sure it's kind of confusing to put together a quadrille, with somebody who hasn't done it, but maybe they catch on quick and you can guide them around. But basically, in a benefit for breast cancer, it's just a demonstration, right? People are riding, in costume to music in a quadrille pattern on, you said it's March 11th.
Yes, it is all of that. It is a competition of sorts, meaning there are judges, and we get judged on the technical abilities of what we're doing. We get judged as a team and how we work as a unit. And we get judged on our presentation. So some of the costume work, on our artistic side, and the music, of course, just like a regular freestyle. It's kind of interesting to note that the quadrille was made a long, long time ago, and it was used a lot in the cavalry, but it was also used in teaching for helping students regulate tempo and how fast you should go or how deep you need to go in the corner. And so you're really organizing your horse as normal, but you're also having to really pay attention to your teammates. And anybody who's ever tried to do a pas de deux, which is 2 or 4 or 6 or even 8 riders at a time, you really have to have a sense of organization with you and your horse, as well as all of the other people. So it's a difficult task to work as a unit with 6 people.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And we saw when we were in Aachen, they had a competition. So it is in Germany. Those were teams of 4. It is a pretty common event. And it was so fun because the teams must have, and they were mostly children. It was what it looked like from the stands. But every club, they must have had to qualify to get to Aachen. But it was so cool to see them. And it was a similar type competition. So tell us, I don't even know where one would start herding the cats. So how do you start herding the cats? Like, how does that happen?
So each year I really feel like, oh my gosh, that was the best I could ever do. And then I have to come up with something better every year. So over the summer, I might watch a whole bunch of things like what you're describing in Aachen. They have actually in Germany, a cup for quadrilles, and people send me little patterns from Western and quadrilles or police quadrilles or cavalry. And I just kind of watch out for new things or hard things, and I start making notes. And then I have a few favorite pieces that or movements, I should say, that I like to keep in my repertoire, but I like to add new things. So I just start blending my notes together. And then I have my sketchbooks that I work from, and I give to my riders that have, just an arena sketchbook. And I just start drawing it out to see what it's going to look like. I made my first draft last week. And this is a Grand Prix quadrille, so we have to show everything: half, pass, trot, and canter, tempies, twos and ones, pirouettes left and right, extended trot, piaffe and passage. So we have to incorporate everything. And really what I do at the end of the day, once I think I have a pattern, I clear off my long dining room table. And I personally, people are going to laugh at this, but I have 6 different sparkling water cans, 2 pinks, 2 reds, and 2 yellows. And I name them 1 and 2, left and right, and whoever's riding. And I make my cans go around the dining room table to see how this is going to work out, because not only do I want to make the pattern exciting and accessible to my riders, but I want it to also look fabulous for the spectators. So if I have 2 gray horses, I want my grays sometimes together, or maybe sometimes I want my gray horses at the end of my fan or my pinwheel, and then I have to bring them back together. So it's a kind of a mental puzzle to kind of put it all together in a way that seems really simple and is actually very difficult.
Oh, that's cool. And I think this might be, a cool project for, kind of people to take on during the winter, just as something different to do. And it's interesting. And, you're working your horse, but you can do it with a friend. And like you said, it's, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 8, I think would work in a 60 by 20. But, for those people who are artistically inclined, can give that job to somebody like that who could take care of the music, and then just watching some YouTube videos and getting an idea of what's the different the different interesting patterns that people can do.
Yeah, there's so many, and there's so many great components about it, which is, one, riding to music accentuates everything in a positive way, generally. And so riding to music is fun, and also riding with your friends is fun. And if you can have sort of a gatekeeper on the ground who can run the music, or be a guide to, hey, Susie, you need to speed up, and hey, Joe, you need to go in the corner more. It can be really educational as well, and the horses get into it. And sometimes when you have a horse that maybe is a little bit afraid of other horses, or usually needs more space in a regular warm-up competition or something, this is a fun way to integrate 20-meter circles, changes of diagonal, but all working together.
So my question is, how do you pick the music? How do you decide? Because that seems like it would be hard.
It is hard. I used to wait and see who I had on my team, and we would have a long discussion meeting over what people's thoughts and ideas were, because as I said in one of my podcasts about freestyles, you really have to love your music. So I recall one year I had probably, I think, 5 of my 6 people were all Latin American. So we used Latin American theme. I have used all different kinds. A couple of years ago, I picked Queen as my theme, and it's one of my personal favorites. Last time, which wasn't last year because we were canceled because of COVID, but I picked Bruce Springsteen as a theme. It wasn't as big a music as I have had in the past in terms of volume and maybe downbeats, but I also chose to change some of my pattern to be a bit more cohesive as a unit and work more with 6 people doing all the same thing rather than 2 groups of 3 doing things. And it really paid off. And I also wanted to give a tribute to Bruce Springsteen. He's done so much for the equestrian community, so it was sort of a thank you to him. Every year is different. I cannot disclose what I'm picking this year. It's a huge secret.
Oh, that's too bad. We were hoping to kind of get a little insight into what's going to be happening in March.
Exactly. We're like, maybe we would get a little extra. No, that was great. No, I think it's such a cool event. If you're in Wellington and you can come and visit, it is such a cool event. It's on the calendar every year. It's changed a little bit over the years. And there's I don't know is there a gala dinner that happens this year? I didn't know if that was happening.
I'm not sure if it's happening or not, but the Challenges of Americas has a good website and also Facebook page presence. And Mary Ross is the woman to talk to. I do know that they are doing a lot more this year with live streaming, so people all over the country can be able to watch and vote and donate to the cause.
Oh, that's perfect.
We're all really
that's
excited
awesome.
about that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's huge.
Well, there's also, I have one more thing to say about how much fun it is for me, and I think my riders too, because, dressage most of the time is such an individual event, and you're competing against yourself, basically. And this is such a fabulous night because all of these wonderful professionals who are international riders and all from all over the place, they're working as a team and as a unit. And I have made so many great friends over the years that I may not have gotten to know if I hadn't been working with them on a team like this.
Yeah, that's so cool. And it's just a great event. And Ruth, you've spent so much time and energy. So how can people, if they want more information on freestyles, how can they find you online?
They can find me at ruthhoganpoulsen.com, and that's Poulsen.
Fantastic. Well, Ruth, we are so thankful for all you do for the organization, and we hope everybody goes to the website and will donate as well. It's a great cause.
Thank you very much. It was great to be here.
Well, tonight we are so excited to have our favorite monthly guest, Wendy Murdoch from the Murdoch Method, back on the show. Hi, Wendy.
Hi, how are you? It's so great to be back.
Happy February.
Yes, February means daylight's getting longer, and I've already noticed, right? You're in Florida, where it doesn't change that much. But up here in Virginia, yeah, I bet Phil's noticing it too, that it's changing. It's
Absolutely.
Yeah. It is changing here too.
We're only about a month away from the time change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the weather's getting better. It's starting. I always found February up north to be a really difficult month because you were like, it's still gray, but it's already, it's the end of February. I'm just going to say, getting there.
Well, anyway, 60 degrees. What is it? 62 degrees outside right now. I know there's a big storm going through the middle of the country, but we have warm breeze and the daylight's getting longer, and I'm starting to come out of hibernation because that's what happens to me in the winter.
You're getting out of your basement for the first time in 2 years, right?
Yeah. So, my office is in my house. It's in the basement. And so that's where I do all the webinars and, where I sit on my computer on my Anywhere saddle chair for 6 hours and 8 hours at a time and keeps my core really strong. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But, I'm really feeling the urge to get out. And this year I'm going to go back to doing some clinics and traveling and some surefoot workshops. And I'm just I needed the hibernation time. I had a lot of stuff to do, and we've completely redesigned the Surefoot Practitioner Program, and we've almost got the document that's going to explain everything to everybody. We're almost finished with that. We're so close, and I'm almost finished with my Surefoot workbook, the first one. I've done the drawings, which has been so much fun. And so we're still finishing up layout. And I know everybody's been asking about it, when's the workbook coming out? It's soon. I keep saying soon, but it really will be soon. And I just feel like this spring, a lot of things are going to happen. It looks like the pandemic's easing off. I'm really got my fingers crossed on that.
Don't say that.
Oh, come on. I want to get back to traveling and seeing people because, my friends are all over the world. Like you and Phil and just everybody I know. None of my friends really live where I live. So I only get to see you guys or talk to you guys like this every month when we talk or when I'm on a webinar. So I'm really looking forward to being able to get back out in the world.
Yes, I think we all are there.
Yeah, that's a sentiment held by everyone I talk to. And yeah, I mean, it's really... It's starting to look hopeful anyways. So
yeah, we're going to stay with that. I love it. Well, Wendy, we were poking around your website chatting right before we got on, and I go on your website a lot. So I've never seen this physio stick. Please, what is this? It looks amazing.
It is so cool. So the physio stick was designed by a man named Rob Moses, and he's a martial arts. He taught, I think, David Carradine. Don't quote me on that, but an amazing martial artist, and he wanted to do something gentler, and so he designed the physio stick. And what it is it's a curved stick, so it's not straight like your whip is straight, right? It's a curved stick, and it's curved along what's known as the Fibonacci spiral. Now, everybody knows. They don't know what that means, the name, but they see it all the time. So that's the spiral we see in seashells. It's the spiral that's on the Da Vinci picture of the man. It's on Sheldon's shirt, if you ever watch Big Bang Theory, which we do. So it's got a narrower part of the curve, like it goes from a wider to a narrow curve. And so what that does is it keeps you in motion. And so when I first was introduced to physio stick was a friend of mine, Gordon Wicks, and he's here in locally where I live, and he's a martial artist who's trained with Rob Moses, and he knows riding, and he's worked with riders. And so one day I was visiting him, and he pulled this out, and I started playing with it. I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And then he just showed me a couple of quick exercises. I was like, wow, well, that's, teaching people, how people have such a hard time learning how to switch their whip over correctly, not the stab sword thing, but hand over hand. Well, he showed me just really quickly, because of the curve of the physio stick, it naturally rolls over in your hand, and you can learn how to do that movement really easily. So I started playing with it. I've actually, Gordon and I filmed a few exercises that are up on the Murdoch Method YouTube channel. Because I have two channels. I have Murdoch Method channel and the Surefoot channel. But over on the Murdoch Method channel, there's 4 exercises that you can do with it. And it really frees up the shoulders. So what happens with so many riders is they get kind of stuck in a very linear way. They're trying to get their shoulders back and sit up, and they kind of jam their arm, and they lose the natural movement of our arm. And what you need to know is that all of our joints have a wider side and a narrower side. So all of our joints work in a spiral action, right? But when we go to the gym and we just work out linear, we're not taking advantage of the way our bones are designed in the spiral. So what the physio stick does is it encourages you to find that natural movement again, that type of spiraling motion. And it really frees up your wrists and your elbows and your shoulders. And of course, you can even take it into motion into there's video of Rob doing a walking meditation with his physio stick. He's amazing. If there's you can Google him, and he's so amazing watching him. He's like water. He flows with it. But I've taken the physio stick and handed it to a rider who was, she was a nice rider. Don't get me wrong, but there was just something about her contact that was, not quite fluid. And so I made sure the horse was okay with it, and I handed her a stick while she was on the horse, and she just messed with it, and it's not even like, yes, there are exercises, but just playing with it starts to free things up. And when she went back to ride, the horse was completely different. Her contact was totally different. The horse was reaching into the bridle. Her arms were softer. Everything had changed in 5 minutes. So, that's one of the things that I really love about something like that is it's super simple. Yes, you can do formal things with it, but just playing and getting the flow and learning how to just roll it over on your hand and following the curve itself, because the one side's more opening. So when you have that side up, it leads you into a more opening kind of arm movement. And when you're following the narrow side, it leads you into a more closing movement. But it gets the shoulders and the arms moving in, again, that way our joints are designed. And so it really improves our contact and our ability to follow our horses.
I love it. So, Wendy,
I'm so curious about this.
Yeah, I'm so curious. I'm like, when can I see this physio stick in person? But I mean, you really opened my eyes. Gosh, okay, this was before the pandemic. So it's been several years when you were here and we worked together and we used the Franklin balls together and you taught me. I still have a lot to learn, but it really opened my eyes to different techniques to help people ride and help people open their bodies. And truly, it's something a lot of technical coaches maybe aren't open to. But I will tell you, you taught me how to use some of these tools, and I can line up a number of riders that it's absolutely changed the way they ride. So I am a believer. Cool. Yeah, I'm a believer. I'm like, when can I get this physio stick? And
I think Wendy is the queen of simple things, that don't take a lot of explanation or just, like the Franklin balls or whatever. Just here you go, play with it, And maybe you'll discover a few things, or the Surefoot pads. I was able to learn, not from Wendy because she was not crossing the border or whatever at the time, but pandemic problems. But her, she had a demonstrator come out, and I said, okay, show me what to do. And they're like, well, you don't really have to do a whole lot. You just say, you show the horse the pad, or and you can let them decide how to interact with it. And I think this is just another one of those things, or it sounds like I'm literally Googling the videos. I'm on YouTube right now.
I'm kind of doing the same thing. I'm not going.
And it's just like, no, Wendy's like, no, you don't have to use these things in a super specific way. It's just play with it, find out if it helps you. If not, okay. I don't know. Like maybe you find one little thing on this tool and go from there.
Yeah, but you've hit the nail on the head, because I'm always looking for simple, low-tech things, right? I mean, I have plenty of high-tech stuff, and I have messed with tons of high-tech stuff. But I always find with the high-tech stuff, you get removed from what you're really trying to do. Right. So like a lot of the simulators that we have, you have to look at a screen. And so you have to process that through a different part of your brain. And then you're trying to translate it into what your body's doing, because it's all like reversed because you're looking at a screen. But really, the closer we can get to something simple and childlike. And that's for me, getting you out of your head and more into the movement of something, whether that's the Franklin balls that challenge your balance, whether that's the Anywhere saddle chair that does the same thing, or the physio stick, or the lookup classes. I'm always looking for a simple way to just tap into the motor part of our brain, the movement part of our brain, and bypass the analytical part, because so many riders get so stuck in the trying to okay, I've got to do this. I got to put my hand there. I got to put my leg there. And they're not riding. They're not riding the horse. They're riding an idea, right? And
Yes.
We've got to ride the horse. So we have to get more into movement. And so many people have desk jobs, and now we're couch potatoes working from home. Sorry, I'm included in that.
No, it's,
that that movement is what we're designed to move. Horses are all about movement, but we lose movement when we're sitting at a desk, and that's why I sit on my anywhere chair for 6-8 hours a day. And I will say I've been doing things with my feet off the floor, which I don't recommend if you aren't used to it, but just caveat there, keep your feet on the floor. But if you're starting out, but I'm amazed at how strong my core is because I'm always in a little bit of movement. I'm not static, and I don't have the hip pain that I had from my chair when I used to sit without my saddle chair. So anything we can do to keep the body in movement, and it doesn't have to be, hard physical exercise where it's just those little postural muscles and the coordinated functions need challenges that are small, because riding is more about stability with micro movements as opposed to macro movements. And we need to keep those joints fluid. When we get older, we tend to start getting a little bit of arthritis and that sort of thing, but joints need movement to stay healthy. And so anything we can do to keep, simple movements easy, doesn't take a lot of thought, doesn't require a lot of training, that you can incorporate into your life. Like I tell people with the physio stick, just keep it in your desk drawer, and take a 5-minute break and just play with it. It just brings that movement back in. And that's, riding that's what it is. It's movement.
It's movement. I love it. Well, Wendy, where can everybody find all of these awesome tools online?
Okay, so all of those things that I've described are on the Murdoch Method website. So you go to murdochmethod.com, that's with an H, and just go to the shop, and under Rider Aids is where all the toys are. And we mentioned the stirrup shims, and those are on there too. The stirrup shims come in at 2 different widths: wider for like Western stirrups and narrow for English. For Western riders, and I know that most of the people listening are not Western riders, but for Western riders, when you twist the stirrup into position, because of the width of the stirrup leather on a Western saddle, it's like 2.5 inches wide. Physics dictates that when you put that twist in, the inside edge is lower than the outside edge. And so you either have to angle your foot onto the stirrup or you cock your foot and ride on your pinky toe. And what the shim does is it levels the stirrup to counteract the effect of the physics of twisting that leather. Now, some English riders, because the English leather is so much narrower, that isn't really the reason for the shims. But if you're on a really round-bodied horse, or you have a short thigh, kind of a thicker short thigh on a round-bodied horse, the stirrup never drops down around the horse's body to come level again. So it's, who is the woman on the chestnut mare? Debbie McDonald. She had a super, super big horse, and she was a short leg person. I always wanted to shimmer stirrups, because, you can see when you look from the front that the stirrup doesn't come down enough to get back to level. So it's on an angle. And the minute your foot is angled on the stirrup, you're misaligning your knee, so you can wind up with knee pain. And I think she actually wound up having knee surgery, if I recall. And I'm not saying that shimming her stirrup would have fixed the problem, but she's just one that comes to mind in terms of English riders, where that physical property of a big-bodied horse with a short-thighed person, the stirrup is still angled. And it's one of the minutes in my 55-minute fixes book with pictures to explain what I'm trying to talk about. But, some people have a misalignment of their foot to their knee. And so I shim them for their conformational issues to alleviate knee pain. And other people, it's this mechanical, just the conformational issue of the shape of the horse in relation to the rider. And then again, for Western, it's because of the physics of twisting the stirrup into a perpendicular position to the horse.
Got it. Oh, it's so cool. Again, you have such amazing tools. So once again, Wendy, how can we find you online?
Okay, so murdochmethod.com, go to the shop, go to Rider Aids. You'll find all the cool toys. And of course, we continue with the webinars. I just had another great webinar today with Dr. Vargas at Spy Coast Farm. She took us on a tour through the farm. Cool. We saw a horse in the water treadmill. It was really fun. So that'll be posted. So that's on the Surefoot Equine YouTube channel. And we're just going to keep rolling with the webinars because I've got some great guests lined up, and as long as I can keep those going, I will, because they're fun and people love them, and I learn a lot too. So really enjoy it.
That's awesome. Well, Wendy, thank you so much as always, and we look forward to next month and your next discussion on the fun things that you have.
Awesome, Phil. Thanks. It's always great to talk to you guys. And, spring is coming. Let's all just keep our eyes focused ahead on the warm weather and daylight.
It's coming. It's coming. We can't wait. Well, thank you, Wendy.
I'm with you. Yeah. Thanks so much for your discussions.
All right. Take care.
Well, Phil, as always, we talk about all the products from Total Saddle Fit, and we love them and we use them and we have tested them. And I, as always, don't take the best care of mine. I hose mine off, which Justin would die. But I love my girths and I love my stability stirrup leathers. We use them on all our saddles, on all our horses. So we field test them, don't we?
Absolutely. I mean, we're using them every day, and they hold up great. I do take a little bit better care of my girths and stuff. I do not hose them, but I can in this weather anyways. So, the fleece girth liners are great for the winter. I mean, the way of interchanging the liners on the girths is fantastic. It's revolutionary, I believe. So, you can check them out on totalsaddlefit.com.
This week's dressage training tip is brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, home of the shoulder relief girth at totalsaddlefit.com.
Well, Phil, for this week's Total Saddle Fit tip of the week, you and I are going to do it solo. And you asked me, what were you working on today with the student? And one of the things we were working on is getting a clean single flying change. And I think this particular horse that I was teaching today is a schooled horse. He knows a flying change. So I'm literally teaching the rider the flying change. So it depends on sort of what scenario you're in. So I wanted to kind of set that stage on the single flying change. So this is a trained horse. He's a schoolmaster. The owner's had him for a couple years now. And she's very successfully shown him lower levels. And so now it's time to work toward third level. So a couple of the things that we were working on, number one is it's hard to keep your excitement together when it comes to flying changes. Does that make sense, Phil? Like everybody gets so excited about a flying change. And
yeah, of course. I mean, it is
exciting.
It's pretty, to ride a flying change is basically controlling a mini buck or something like that, right? The horse has to jump up in the air and switch its lead. So, I mean, if you can, do that in the right timing and with the right balance and not, and not fall off more or less, then it is kind of an exciting moment.
And that was actually kind of a situation, right? Because my student was so excited she got a flying change. She was like, lean forward and pet him. And then off we were going. And I finally said, please stop doing that. I said, sit down and ride your canter. I know this is super exciting and I want you to be excited, but I need you to ride the canter after the flying change. And it's actually similar when you're teaching a horse a flying change. At first you get really excited about good job. But really the horses have to learn that there's going to be a movement coming forward, right? You need to finish the flying change and get ready for your next movement and not lean forward and pet them and all the things. And it's easy to do it. Actually, and we still want to do it too, as professional riders. It's exciting. So that was the first thing, was we were working also on staying on the line. So I had her ride a flying change. She was having trouble with this. So it was one of the reasons the horse was here. I rode him. He came down for camp basically in Florida. And I rode him for a couple of weeks just to check on everything, and everything was fine. The horse was fine. And then I had her show me what she was doing. And I understand now what the problem was. She was riding the flying change and then just turning the horse or not steering after. So he really had no idea what was happening. He didn't know what was going on. So that was part of it. And then also part of it was learning the flying change aid. And I think that's really important aid to learn and to think about as you go forward, because it's a little bit, once you do it and you get used to it, you forget what not necessarily what it is, but how to explain it. So how I explain it, and then Phil, I'll let you explain the way you like to explain it. But I teach people to ride a change by going on either a curved line or a straight line, depending on if you're doing a serpentine loop or if you're doing, let's say, third level, where you come off a circle and then you go straight on a short diagonal. That's what we were working on. So number one, I put her on a test figure because this particular horse, he actually felt more comfortable with that. He liked knowing sort of what he was supposed to do. So I said to her, I said, okay, ride the figure from third level, ride a good quality 10-meter circle, which good balance, good rhythm, good tempo. This horse was getting a little bit quick. So we were working on that, and that he didn't get any faster depending on what we were doing. So that was part of the lesson. And then I had her go across a diagonal, and we talked about this before we did it. And I teach people the mantra to go forward, straight, half halt, give your aid. All right. And the aid in this case, let's say we're cantering right and we're doing a flying change from right to left. She was struggling with the placement of her legs, which is a very, very normal thing. And in this particular student, she won't mind me. I'm not using her name, but she won't mind because this is a pretty normal thing. So she was struggling with the position of her legs. So I really had her place the right leg at the girth and the left leg behind the girth. And then when she went to ride her half halt, it's the new outside rein. So it would be the right rein. And then she needed to swing her hips. That's where she was getting stuck, as she was trying to swing her legs, but she wasn't actually moving her body. So, because flying changes are really done from your hips. So we were practice that as we stood there, and we practiced moving our leg. So the right leg has to go back and the left leg has to go forward. So there's a process to, like Phil said, the kind of playful sort of jump up in the air. You also have to move your body. So we did that, and it was no problem. And then we really had to practice riding the canter after the flying change. So that's how I teach it. I teach forward, straight, half halt, move your leg and your hip, right? That's a general term that we do use. It's hard for your instructor. There's a lot to say. So we practice beforehand of what we're going to say. And when she did that, the horse knew exactly what he was supposed to do, and she popped the change and she was thrilled. So it's actually not as complicated. She was making it actually far too complicated, and the horse was just losing balance and losing also the half halt. So as soon as we got her to do that, she was able to find the rhythm of the flying change, and it was much better. So that's what I worked on today, Phil. But I'm gonna see how you teach it, because everybody teaches it a little bit different. And obviously, you do know this horse and rider, but you didn't know the situation really. So I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, every horse does a flying change a little bit different as well. They've all got their tendencies to want to swing. So, I mean, your hips, their hips, they want to swing their hips a lot, right? And actually, the more that you can keep the horse straighter, the easier it is. And I know that horses, they want to, jump around a little bit through the change, but that actually is counterproductive to the balance, and so, we do a lot of simple changes to really try to, figure out the aid, because, it's like a simple change, only you eliminate the walk steps. So
yes,
I think that a lot of riders will move their body a little bit too much, or allow a little bit too much of the horse's movement to kind of take over and throw them around a little bit. So, especially in third level, the line that you ride must be very, very straight.
Yes. Reach it.
Yeah, because if it's not, then you're going to have problems later on. And so, what I try to get the riders to think about and to do is to say, there is a little jump, but it isn't much. Try to just keep the balance, in the direction that you're going, and make a change, but less is more. And the reason I say that, I mean, because the judges want to see really big, exuberant changes. And so, and all the riders have the idea of Isabel or Charlotte or, whoever they admire the most, and how big those Grand Prix horses change. But that's, a lot of riders aren't capable of keeping the balance while the horses are changing so big. So what I try to just get riders to to think about and to emulate is just start with a really itty bitty change that you can keep straight and go from there. Because if you're riding a horse that knows, it depends, if you're riding a horse that knows it, then they don't need you to fling your body around and swing around, and because that will just cause a loss of balance in the horse. What the aim is for your first flying changes on a trained horse is just very straight, very small change that's in the right timing, and then you can work from there to make it bigger or whatever. But the biggest problem is that a rider learning to change is to be going for this big giant change and then just to kind of mess with the horse's balance a little bit. So you might get that kind of a change the first time, maybe the second time, and maybe the third time. But by the time that you've done 4 or 5 of those big swinging changes, stuff starts to happen. And this is really common in people learning changes that, they ride it through and then they get it once and then like, oh yeah, okay, then I'll just do more. And then they ride it again. They get it. Oh, that was a bigger jump. Oh, I'm getting this. I'm doing it good. And then they go, and then, and like I said, by the 5th or 6th time, you're actually causing the horse to become unbalanced, and then they can't do a clean change anymore. So, like I said, less is more when you're learning changes. And then when you're confident and the horse is confident and you can stay straight, then maybe you would go for a higher score. But learning to do it is you need a quick little clean change. A quick little clean change is much more productive than these big changes that you have in your mind. So that's kind of what I talk about is like, don't worry about getting an 8 on your first learning how to change. It's you got to get a 5 or a 6 before you can get an 8, and then it'll start to go the right way. But it's a personal thing and a very difficult thing. And like I said, you might get it for a week, and then the next week you're not getting it, and then you're like, oh well, I'm doing the same thing, and then as an instructor, I come in and say, well, there's a lot of crookedness happening. There's a lot of rushing happening. There's a lot of, let's just take it back to the beginning and do simple changes for a few days and go from there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, I love it. Well, as always, our trainer tips, we love to give them to you. And if you have any more, send them our way. Philip and I will tackle whatever you got, or try to at least. So we really enjoy it. So we hope you enjoyed tonight's Total Saddle Fit Tip of the Week. Well, as always, we love email and Facebook shout outs. Keep them coming. We love all the questions and any comments that you like or you'd like to hear us cover. We are always open to suggestions. And as always, you can find our show notes and links to today's guest on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
I think the best way to find me is probably on Facebook, and my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors for allowing us to put on a good show. That's Kentucky Performance Products, The Murdoch Method, and Total Saddle Fit. Don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we can't wait to talk to you next week.